So it's a bit of a back to basics video today. I'm going to be talking about the Doctor Who title sequences as a tried and tested topic to talk about because they're just so much fun. There's a lot of detail in them, and I don't think any show probably ever has as many title sequences as Doctor Who has. It's quite outstanding, to be honest. So yeah, I'm going to be covering them all from Hartnell to Whittaker and putting them in the order that I deem to be my favourites. So I hope you guys enjoy. So without further ado, let's get to it. As always with anything like this is just simply my opinion, so if you disagree, that's perfectly fine. Let me know what your opinion is in the comments below. So, number 16, the Matt Smith remixes. I decided to rank these separately as they're too different to the original Smith 1 title sequence to be lumped in with that one. Frankly, I don't like these at all. I hate how gimmicky they were going with the whole Blockbuster of the Week format that Series 7A did. It just wasn't necessary with all the strange colour changes that made it look like the sequence had just gotten put through several Instagram filters. They don't look awful per se, most of the time, but I straight up disagree with them on principle, and the original sequence just would have worked better. Number 15. Paul McGann, TV movie, 1996. The TV movie sequence was dynamic, but simplistic. Obviously being a movie, it didn't fit the same title sequence confines that we had been used to at that point. I wasn't particularly infused by it personally. Logo, then Vortex, then TARDIS. I mean, it was cookie cutter. But then again, it did the job. And it's the first time we had the names of the actors as opposed to the face, so it accidentally started off a trend. Number 14. Baker 2, 1980 to 1981. Season 18 is one of my all-time favourite seasons, and of course it is one of my favourite portrayals of the Fourth Doctor. JNT wanted to reinvent the title sequence to go with it, and it did quite well, but I just honestly don't find the sequence to be that exciting. The thing that kills it for me is the picture they chose of Tom. The poor guy looks like a crew member literally stole his lunch in front of his eyes. No idea why they went with that. Or maybe after 50 takes that was the best one. Either way, it hurts what is still a decent sequence. Number 13, Smith 2, 2012 to 2013. There is a lot going on in this sequence. It is genuinely so flashy. I will credit it with bringing back the usage of the face back to the title sequence, but goodness, it is an overwhelming artistic unleashing, with vortexes, nebulas, all sorts of designs all over the place. It feels insane. I mean, I have a soft spot for it, but I would say it needs to be toned down a little bit. You can't say Matt didn't start the last set of his stories without a bang though. It perhaps just needed a little bit of streamlining, a little less graphical design elsewhere, but what has gone on has gone on. I do like the colours though. Just needed a bit less and a bit more stylistic direction. Number 12, Davison. Number 12, Peter Davison, 1982 to 1984. A controversial opinion, yes, but as I said with the Baker version of this sequence, this one just has the same issues. It lacks that creative spark that the Hartnell and early Baker sequences had with the vortexes and the howler-rounds. And while it is definitely down to wanting to go in a new direction, I can't help but feel that a few tweaks could have been done to make it just that bit more eye-catching. Unfortunately they did that for Colin, but we'll discuss that later. Number 11, Smith 1, 2010 to 2011. This placing was not intentional, 11, etc. Anyway, the second new series title sequence, it has a lot to live up to. Honestly, I don't mind it at all, but the slow speed of it compared to the rapid energy of his immediate predecessor was a daunting change, and it overall felt a bit more cartoony. The font choice as well, being blockier and more gothic in the names, I was a bit unsure about that. And I know how they were going for that whole fairy tale vibe, and it kind of works for the most part with the fire side of the vortex, but it just feels a bit cold at the same time. That said, it is still very well crafted. Number 10, Jon Pertwee 1, 1970 to 1973. We're starting to move towards the side of the list where I like all of these sequences in differing amounts, and I do enjoy the first Pertwee sequence. It's almost, but not quite, on a similar vein to Smith 2. The first Pertwee sequence had a lot going on at the start, seeing as they could finally develop a title sequence of colour in mind. And blimey, they went with a lot of colour. My only complaint is that at the same time, compared to the Hartnell and Troughton sequences, not a lot happened in terms of those howl-around visuals. The others had great scale, but this one is a lot more toned down if you view it in black and white. But still, I like it. It's still pretty dynamic, and I love the colour usage. Number 9. Jodie Whittaker, 2018 to present. As far as the take on the modern HowlRound goes, it's great. This feels like it took the 60s sequences and then wrapped them up with a lot of LSD and then threw it on its way. But I am conflicted about it. I mean, it's stylish, and it does feel very Doctor Who-y, but it does also feel like just a graphical showcase, rather than a Doctor Who title sequence going for it. And I do miss the TARDIS being in this sequence as well, which was a tradition of the new series titles. They always kept a focus on it, and they've now done away with the Doctor's face again, but I guess that's a lesser issue, seeing as the RTD era ones never really used the face anyway. But on the other hand, it does capture such a scale with lucid visuals that are so encapturing they do find yourself engrossed. It's honestly quite good. Number 8. Tom Baker 1, 1974 to 1980. Stay your pitchforks please, hear me out. The original Tom Baker sequence is good. It's iconic in its own right. But in the top 10, I like all of these sequences, so it's just a case of which one just slightly outdid the last. And this sequence is marvellous in its own right. It looks good, it is fun. You have the TARDIS, you have the Doctor, you have all the good ingredients. It's just the least creative of the 4 sequences that preceded it, to say the least. And it's just a less energetic and a less fun remake of Pertwee's second sequence. But the thing that puts it above the first Pertwee sequence is the use of Tom himself. It's a far cry to how he is used in his second sequence, but this stoic look for Tom is just burned into my brain. Also, the diamond logo is a classic. Number 7. Patrick Troughton, 1967 to 1969. Troughton's sequence was such a trip. I love the HowlRound used in it. It looks sublime and really does take you on a journey through impressive creative use of that HowlRound style of the time. And of course, this is the first time that they decided to use the Doctor's face, and it looked pretty eerie and almost sinister to an extent, having the gigantic looming face of Patrick Troughton just staring at you from the depths of the television. As I said, it's a trip. Number 6. Sylvester McCoy, 1987 to 1989. Honestly, I have a massive soft spot for the aesthetic of the McCoy era. I love the music, the theme, and his last 2 seasons are just sublime. And his title sequence is honestly great in my opinion. I mean, I know again it's controversial, being the first CGI title sequence Who has ever had, and being very 80s, it may not have aged particularly well, but despite that fact of being a product of his time, I really like it. So much happens in it with the vortex and the asteroids and the nebulas, but at the same time, you don't get overwhelmed because it's all done in equal measure, and I really like how they went about it. Everything's just so nicely paced. And also, I love the wink. It's cheesy, but I love that little wink from McCoy's painted face. I mean, it may be the stuff of nightmares for some, but for me, it's quite cheesy, and I like it. Number 5. Colin Baker, 1984 to 1986. Controversial again, I know, but it's amazing how just injecting that extra mass of colour into the first 80s sequence really just boosted its visuals and iconography. Colin, being a particularly colourful Doctor, deserved a fitting colourful sequence, and how the lighting and the colours are used on illuminating his face is just wonderful for me. And despite the fact it's just a remix of the last Baker / Davison intro, I don't know what it is, but it just works a lot more for me than those sequences did. Right down to that tilted logo. Honestly, it's iconic in its own right, and probably quite underrated, like a lot of the Sixth Doctor's era. It's a remix done right. Number 4. Christopher Eccleston / David Tennant, 2005 to 2010. I love the top 5 near equally. The 2005 sequence is definitely the childhood favourite. So many good memories associated with this one, and it is quite nostalgic at this point. It's such a rip-roaring trip through time and space that you can't help but rewatch again and again, just down to that pure energy it had. The sequence is quite simplistic. 2 vortexes, TARDIS flyby, names, logo, but it works. Whilst I preferred the next 4 sequences in terms of style, it is the perfect sequence to welcome Who back to the TV screens after so many years. Number 3. Peter Capaldi, 2014 to 2017. The Capaldi sequence is generally a piece of art for me. I love the original concept by Billy Hanshaw, but the BBC version takes enough from it that it remains so cool. The clock aspect is a unique one to this sequence, and it fits the bill, but Capaldi's eyes lend some truly striking imagery, one of my favourite uses of the face in any sequence of Who. This one did have a few variants, and my favourite of those would have to be the rock-themed version from Before the Flood. That was utterly epic. Number 2. Hartnell / early Troughton, 1963 to 1967. This one is just sublime. The eerie, creative, hypnotic nature of it, it just started the trend and structure that began the evolution of the rest of the Doctor Who title sequences. It just screams perfect for the show. And it is just perfect. The howl-around effects are more believable than many CGI effects that came later, and nothing captures the whole journey into the depths of time and space like this one did. It's so trippy, and it's just gorgeous. It's beautifully well made, and it's fantastic that they paid tribute to it by bringing it back for the 50th anniversary. I absolutely love it. And number 1, Jon Pertwee 2, 1973 to 1974. This is it. For me, this is the best and my favourite opening of the show. It is so trippy, everything about it works. The opening time tunnel forms into a vortex that is so energetically enigmatic and just rips you right into the show. The sequence uses Pertwee's full body to channel the Doctor flying through the vortex, not just the TARDIS, but the Doctor himself. And I love how that vortex just forms around on him. The sequence of the effects used on Jon's face too, blowing him into existence, it feels both of its time and at the same time ahead of its time. It captures the same feel of eeriness as the original, but with that added bit of cheese that leaves you warm and ready for the adventure ahead, combined with the diamond logo, which is just so classic. So yeah, this is my fave. It's controversial, yes, but it is indeed my favourite. So that was my thoughts on the Doctor Who title sequences from 1963 to the present day. What are your thoughts on them? Do you have any particular order that you would like to put the title sequences in? If so, do let me know in the comments below. And until next time, see ya!